Our story begins back in the early 1900s in what is now the ghost town of Portlock, Alaska. Portlock in particular was founded as a fishing town. Majority of the residents would make their living with the plentiful salmon fishing in the area. For the first 20 or 30 years of the town's existence, life was peaceful for its residents. The town had a little convenience store, a small school, and even a post office. That wasn't until life for the local residents turned upside down. One day, one of the local villagers failed to return from one of his local hunting trips in the woods that surrounded the town. Only a few days went by after locals started to question if he was in fact okay and what happened to him. A search party was quickly dispatched, scouring the local area and the known hunting locations, searching for any trace of the missing hunter. It didn't take him long though. While searching, one of the rescuers noticed random articles of clothing torn up, scattered across the forest floor. A little investigation was conducted, where they determined that these clothes in fact belonged to the missing hunter. There was also something else that they found in the area. Small pieces of body parts that were later identified to be that of the hunter who went missing. This wasn't the end of the story though. It was in fact just its beginning, because in the following weeks and months, what happened to the initial hunter happened again. People going missing without a trace, only for searchers to find a few days later that their mutilated bodies were littering the forest floor. This wasn't all that they found though, because every night that the residents would turn up missing, other locals would report strange figures that they would see stalking the town from the tree line. These figures were typically described as tall, hairy, and dark-colored, way too tall to be a human, growling and throwing rocks into the village as they watched from the tree line. Now, it's worth noting that the local residents here had been living in this area for a long time. They knew what local wildlife inhabited the area and could easily identify things such as bears and moose due to this familiarity. Common consensus, though, was not that a pack of bears were terrorizing the local town, but in fact a legendary creature named the Nantucket. Native American legends are one of a Bigfoot-like creature that stalks the wilderness of Alaska. They didn't view this creature, though, as peaceful, but instead one that was known to abduct people as they slept, dragging them off into the woods where they would never be seen or heard from again. A legend that locals of Portlock were all too familiar with. A few months after these events, the town was eventually abandoned. The post office and local infrastructure closed, and this was not a gradual process. I mean that overnight the town went from a prosperous little community to being a total ghost town, the way it continues to stand today. Reports from this time tell of locals quickly grabbing whatever they could one night and fleeing the town altogether. You actually could still visit Portlock today and see all of the old abandoned buildings full of the personal possessions left behind by the people who once called this town home. The story of Bigfoot is one that goes further back in time than you may think. Since the dawn of the American continent, people have claimed to find evidence pointing to the existence of a large bipedal creature stalking the woods. This story actually stems from Native American folklore, people who have lived in this continent for thousands of years. From the Seminole tribe down to the southeastern United States, all the way to the far northeast, with Native American tribes in Alaska, all contain very similar stories of creatures that stalk the woods, all identified as large, hairy, bipedal, humanoid figures. Also, I'm sure that most of you watching have now heard that majority of the world's governments hearing of UFOs and their official acknowledgement of the phenomenon. Something that was once considered to be a fringe theory, but now is strangely real. People reported seeing lights in the sky for thousands of years now. We find them all across the globe in ancient literature, drawings and stories passed down from generation to generation. That was until, though, video feeds from fighter pilots started to surface, Whistleblowers started to come forward claiming that there was something unknown flying around in their skies. Credible stories from credible witnesses. And just like that, something that was once put into the realm of a fringe theory is now mainstream science. This, though, started making me wonder about other stories that people have been telling for generations that are currently considered to be make-believe, but may in fact be true. In particular, I mean Bigfoot. Stories of Bigfoot and UFOs have been strangely similar over the years. Mainstream science says it's all not true, but Native Americans who have lived on this land for thousands of years view this as a figment of reality. Also, too, the question still remains: what happened within Portlock, Alaska? Well, the simple answer to this question is that we don't know. The official explanation tells that the town was abandoned due to the fact that right across the bay, local roads and infrastructure were being built, connecting similar fishing villages in the region to roadways, which ran to towns that were much larger, such as Anchorage. As far as the mysterious disappearances and creatures that were told to be stalking the woods, these are all explained by the skeptics as misidentification with bears, who inhabit the area in large quantities. The official explanation, though, is not told by the people who once called the town home. Their response is that they wouldn't misidentify a bear due to the fact that they were so common in the area and that locals, since they lived there for so long, were very familiar with this place that they called home. Also, reports of bears attacking humans, while is common typically, do not result in bears proceeding to dismember and eat their human victims. Facts that locals claim roll out bears as a suspect, blame that they then place on a Bigfoot-like creature stalking the wilderness. As of the question on if these things are real or not, I guess time will tell. I'm sure that most sightings and footprints that are found throughout history could be chalked up to either misidentification or an intentional hoax, in particular because of how mainstream Bigfoot has become over the years. Whether you're into mysteries or not, just about everybody knows the legends of Bigfoot. But there are also a lot of instances that cannot be so easily explained, and a lot of credible witnesses who believe that they actually did see something out in the woods. To call all of these people delusional, I think it's just absurd. And as time goes on, though, we will continue to take the path not traveled. Thank you.